Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we unpack fascinating topics and, really try to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
Glad to be here.
So today, we're diving into something that, it often challenges our common perceptions about wealth and generosity. Have you ever wondered if there's maybe a deeper, more structured approach to giving than just, say, dropping some coins in a box now and then?
That's a good question.
We often think of generosity as, a nice to have, maybe an optional thing. But what if it's more foundational? Like a whole system designed to purify wealth and build a community of care?
That really gets to the heart of what we're exploring today. We're looking into the wisdom behind giving and spending in Islam. Specifically, we'll focus on two core concepts.
Okay.
First, there's Infaq fi Sabeelillah, that's the sort of general encouragement to spend in Allah's way. And second, Zakat, which is the specific obligatory charity.
Right, so not just random acts, but integral parts of a bigger picture, a framework for life.
Exactly. They're deeply woven into living a life aligned with, divine principles.
And to help us navigate this, we're drawing on some really rich source material, right? Including direct bits from the wisdom of giving, zakat, and spending in Islam.
That's right. It's a fantastic source that really illuminates the foundational ideas, the specific commands, and maybe most importantly, the profound wisdom behind it all.
So our mission today, for you listening, is basically to unpack how these principles aren't just about, managing money. It's about how they guide your whole life, how they're meant to purify wealth and establish this pretty amazing system of care and shared responsibility.
Yeah, moving beyond the surface level.
Exactly. We want you to grasp the intricate dance between the general encouragement, be generous, and the specific non-negotiable obligation, give this amount. Think of this as your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, maybe with some surprising facts and practical insights too.
That sums it up nicely. And, to really appreciate the wisdom here, it's super helpful to understand a fundamental principle in Islamic divine law, the Sharia.
Okay, what's that?
It's this idea of a dual nature in divine commands. So first, you often get very broad general guidance, like an encouragement towards a whole lifestyle rooted in goodness, virtue, constant mindfulness.
Like a big picture view.
Right. And then within that big picture, you get specific, precise actions prescribed. These ensure there's discipline, focus, unwavering observance. It's kind of like being given a huge, beautiful garden to look after.
Okay.
But also getting very specific instructions on how to tend to certain really vital plants within it. You need both the general care and the specific attention.
I see. A general call to action and then concrete steps you absolutely have to take. That makes a lot of sense. Can you give us an example of the source uses the remembrance of Allah, the kir, right? How does that dual command work there?
Perfect example. So the Quran repeatedly emphasizes the general command. Remember Allah constantly. In all situations.
All the time.
Pretty much. Like Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 103, it says, so remember Allah while standing, sitting, and lying on your sides. And then Surah Al-Anfal, chapter 8, verse 45 adds, and remember Allah often so that you may succeed. The idea is this continuous mindfulness, this constant awareness of God in everything.
Right.
That's what keeps your life in order, keeps you steady on the right path. It acts like a preventative measure, a spiritual immune system almost.
So it's about maintaining this continuous awareness, a mindfulness that stops you from getting totally lost in the day-to-day or being swayed by negativity or even, as the source puts it, satanic whispers. It's like a spiritual anchor.
Precisely. And anger. If that general awareness fades, then, the desires of the self, the ego, and those insidious whispers from Satan, they start to take control.
Yeah.
And that can lead you astray, make you cross moral boundaries, get totally consumed by worldly stuff. It's foundational. Without that constant general awareness, you can easily lose your moral compass.
I can definitely see how that could happen. Okay, so that's the broad general command. What's the specific obligatory command then in this remembrance context?
Right. So alongside that constant general remembrance, Allah also prescribed a very specific obligatory form, salah, the 5 daily prayers.
5 prayers.
Yeah. Each one consists of a few units, rakas, and usually takes, 5 to 10 minutes? Not long.
Right.
But the wisdom isn't that you only have to remember Allah during those short times. No. The purpose of these specific fixed times is to make sure that, at the very least, you dedicate these periods to being fully immersed in remembering Allah. It's like a minimum benchmark, a spiritual check-in you can't skip.
Ah, okay. So the specific prayers don't let you off the hook for the general mindfulness the rest of the day. They're more like maybe a reset button, ensuring you stay tuned in, even with everything else going on.
You've got it. It's both a baseline and a powerful reinforcement of that wider, constant state of remembrance, an essential discipline. And this is where it links directly back to our main topic today. This same dynamic general encouragement plus specific obligation applies perfectly to spending in the way of Allah.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. General remembrance, specific prayer, general giving. Specific giving.
Exactly. Just as there's a general call to remember, there's a general call to give. And just as there's the specific obligatory prayer, there's a specific obligatory charity.
Okay, perfect transition. Let's dive into that second application then. The general command to spend in the way of Allah, Infaq fi Sabeelillah. What's the core message here?
Well, at its heart, the Quran really pushes believers to actively avoid greed and stinginess. These are seen as like the roots of a lot of evil. They lead you down a narrow, self-centered path that ultimately hurts you and the community.
So avoid the negative.
Right, but it's also about actively cultivating the positive. Believers are urged to try and reflect the attributes of Allah himself, who gives endlessly, without measure, to everyone, even though nobody has a claim on him. It's about embodying that divine quality of boundless generosity.
So it's more than just not being greedy. It's actively being generous, spending beyond just your own needs to help others, to serve Islam. It sounds like it connects to loving God more than loving money, sacrificing that love of wealth for something higher.
It absolutely is a spiritual exchange. This general command sets the whole foundation for how a believer should view and use their wealth. It demands a big mindset shift from possessiveness to stewardship.
Right.
And the Quran makes it incredibly clear this mindset is fundamental to guidance itself. Like right near the beginning, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. It lays out 3 essential conditions for staying on the straight path.
What are they?
It says the Quran is guidance for those who are mindful of Allah, and who are they? Those who believe in the unseen, establish prayer, and spend out of what we have provided them.
Belief in the unseen, prayer, and spending. So, in fact, this general spending isn't just a nice suggestion. It's presented as one of the 3 pillars for a truly guided life. How do those 3 link up?
Well, they form a really coherent system. Belief in the unseen gives you the faith framework, trust in God. Prayer establishes that direct disciplined connection, keeps your spiritual compass pointed right, and then spending. In fact, that's the outward action. It shows your belief and connection aren't just abstract ideas. It proves you're not holding on to wealth so tightly that you ignore divine commands or lack compassion. It grounds belief in real-world action.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just about money. It's a fundamental reorientation of your relationship with money, turning it into a spiritual act.
Yeah.
And the Quran goes deeper into the wisdom behind this, right? What are some of those insights?
Oh, definitely. There are several profound points. For instance, Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 92, you will never attain righteousness until you spend from that which you love.
From what you love, not just spare change.
Exactly. This is critical psychologically and spiritually. True righteousness isn't about giving away stuff you don't want anyway, or just your surplus. It's about willingly letting go of something cherished, something that has a real hold on your heart, something you truly value.
What?
That active detachment from something beloved, done for Allah's sake, that's what purifies the soul and elevates you spiritually. It's a victory over self-love and attachment to the material world.
So the quality of the sacrifice matters immensely. Giving something that genuinely means something, that must have huge internal effect.
Yeah.
Then there's that warning about Satan. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.268. Satan threatens you with poverty and commands you to immorality, stinginess.
Yeah, this verse is so insightful. It pinpoints the core fear driving stinginess, fear of poverty. Satan basically exploits this deep human anxiety, whispers doubts, fears about the future to tempt you into holding back your wealth.
Right, playing on insecurity.
Exactly, and that fear-driven withholding leads down a path of self-interest, which can quickly slide into broader moral problems, breaking down community trust. When fear runs your finances, you prioritize your own perceived security over generosity and compassion. It's a vicious cycle.
That really hits home. Fear can absolutely warp our decisions. And there's an even starker warning in Surah Al-Baqarah 2.195. Spend in the way of Allah and do not throw yourselves into destruction with your own hands. Destruction? That sounds really severe. How does not spending lead to destruction?
It is severe, and it applies on multiple levels. Individually, holding back wealth when you can give can lead to spiritual decay. You become consumed by greed, isolated, lose touch with the higher purpose. That internal poverty is a form of self-destruction.
Okay, internal destruction.
And societally, if wealth just gets hoarded, not circulated to help the needy or support the common good, what happens? Massive inequality, social unrest, breakdown of community bonds. That withholding becomes a self-inflicted wound for the whole society, a destruction of its fabric.
Wow, that's way broader than just going bankrupt. It's spiritual, social, communal decay.
Oh.
Okay, but for those who overcome this, who manage to give, there's that promise of true success in Surah Al-Hajj 59.9. And whoever is saved from the greed of their own soul, they are the ones who will be truly successful.
Yeah, that verse beautifully redefines success. In a world obsessed with, piling up stuff and external status, this says true success isn't about how much you have, it's about how free you are internally from greed, envy, possessiveness.
Saved from greed, yeah.
Right. Being saved from the greed of your own soul means finding inner peace, contentment, aligning with a divine purpose, that internal liberation, that freedom that's presented as the real lasting success.
So based on all these verses, the source kind of outlines two distinct paths in life, two ways of living related to wealth. Can you break those down?
Absolutely. The Quran paints these two very clear contrasting pictures. First, there's the way of Allah. This path is all about goodness, virtue, success, and ultimately salvation, the guiding principle, an open, generous heart. Whatever Allah gives you, a little or a lot, you use it for your needs, yes, but also proactively to help others, your brothers and sisters, and crucially, to spend in the cause of raising Allah's word, spreading truth and justice. It's an outward-looking, benevolent life.
And the contrast.
The stark contrast is the way of Satan. Now, this path might look profitable or beneficial in the short term, in a worldly sense, but the Quran warns it leads to destruction and ruin eventually.
Also.
Its guiding principle is the total opposite of generosity, obsession with hoarding wealth. Clinging fiercely to every penny, guarding it miserly. Nothing gets spent unless it's for pure self-benefit or worldly desires. It's totally inward-looking, driven by accumulation, and ultimately self-defeating spiritually. It's a fundamental choice.
It's fascinating how it's framed, not just as actions, but as these fundamental orientations toward life itself with clear consequences. Powerful stuff.
Definitely. It's about the underlying philosophy. And speaking of the act itself, the Quran also gives really specific principles, etiquette for how you should spend. It's not just about giving, it's the manner of giving.
Right, so how you give is just as important as what you give. What's the number one rule here, the foundation?
The absolute core rule is intention, sincerity. It must be solely for Allah's pleasure, not for praise, not for fame, definitely not to make people feel like they owe you something. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.272 is crystal clear. Whatever you spend is only for seeking the face of Allah. That sincerity is everything.
And there's that parable you mentioned from Surah Al-Baqarah 2.264, the smooth rock with dust washed away by rain. How does that illustrate this point about sincerity?
It's such a vivid image. Imagine a smooth, hard rock. Maybe it has a thin layer of dust on it. You try to plant something in that dust. It might look like it's growing for a second. But then a heavy rain comes, washes all the dust away, leaves the rock totally barren. Nothing can grow. Similarly, charity done just to show off or without real belief in Allah in the last day, it holds zero spiritual weight.
So it looks good on the surface.
Right. Might get you praise from people, but on the day of judgment, worthless, stripped bare, because the intention was corrupt. It's a serious warning against hypocrisy.
That's a really sobering image. Underscores the importance of the why. Okay, what's the second principle for ethical giving?
Second, and tied closely to intention, is don't boast about it or hurt the recipient afterwards. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.262 says, "Those who spend their wealth in the cause of Allah and do not follow their charity with reminders or harm for them is their reward with their Lord. They will have no fear, nor will they grieve."
No, hey, remember when I helped you comments? No making them feel small.
Exactly. No publicizing their need just to make yourself look good.
That's so crucial, because a kind act can be totally ruined by a boastful word or a hurtful reminder later. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.263 even says, "A kind word and forgiveness are better than charity followed by hurt." It really values the recipient's feelings.
Absolutely. True charity should elevate the person, preserve their dignity, not diminish them or make them feel indebted.
Right. What's third?
Third is about the quality of what you give. Give from the good stuff, not your rejects. Don't look for the expired food or the torn clothes. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.267 commands, O believers, spend from the good things you have earned. Do not choose the inferior things for charity when you yourselves would not accept them without disdain.
Wow, that's so practical but deep. Treat the recipient how you'd want to be treated. You wouldn't want subpar stuff, so don't give it. Connects to that idea of you get what you give, spiritually speaking.
It reflects your inner state, your respect for the command and the person. Fourth, give privately when you can. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.271 says, if you give charity openly, it is good. But if you give it secretly to the poor, it is better for you, and it will wipe away some of your sins.
Okay, so there's a balance. Public giving can inspire others, which is good. But secret giving is better for you, for your own sincerity, making sure it's purely for God, not for show.
Precisely. It purifies the intention. Fifth principle is about responsible giving, especially to those who might be immature or foolish with money. Surah An-Nisa 4.5 cautions, do not entrust your wealth which Allah has made a means of support for you to the foolish. Instead, provide for them and clothe them from it.
So it's not about being stingy, it's about wisdom. Don't give more than needed if it's likely to be wasted or enable bad habits.
Exactly. It's a nuanced approach. Charity should be genuinely beneficial, sustainable, empowering, not just thoughtlessly enabling irresponsibility.
Got it. What's number 6?
Sixth, compassion for debtors. If someone owes you money and is genuinely struggling, Surah Al-Baqarah 2.280 says, if the debtor is in hardship, then grant him time until ease. But if you forgive the debt entirely, it is better for you if only you knew.
So, no pressuring someone in real difficulty.
Yeah.
And forgiving the debt, if you can afford it, is seen as an even higher virtue. That's powerful debt relief, good for the soul and the community.
A profound act of empathy. And finally, number 7, moderation in spending. This is a core theme everywhere in Islam. Avoid extremes.
The middle path.
Right. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.219 gives general guidance. They ask you, what should we spend? Say, whatever is beyond your needs. Then Surah Al-Furqan 25.67 describes true servants. When they spend are neither wasteful nor stingy, but choose a balanced way between the two.
And there's that other vivid image, Surah Al-Isra 17.29. Do not keep your hand tied to your neck, nor stretch it out completely, lest you end up blameworthy and destitute. So don't be a miser, hand tied up, but also don't give everything away recklessly and neglect your family or become broke yourself.
Exactly. Finding that balance ensures you can keep giving sustainably, protect your family, and help others. It's holistic financial management.
Okay, so we've covered the principles, the how-to of this general giving, Infaq. Now, who actually gets this help? The Quran is pretty specific, right? It lists recipients, emphasizing that our wealth isn't entirely ours. It contains the rights of others.
Absolutely. And the first priority, often in general giving, is your close relations. Surah Al-Isra 17.26 says, give the relative his due, and the needy, and the traveler. So start with your own core relatives, make sure they're okay, then extend outwards. Charity begins at home, quite literally here.
Makes sense. Prioritize family. But then the definition of true righteousness expands that circle quite a bit, doesn't it? Surah Al-Baqarah 2.177 lists a whole group of people who receive wealth from the truly righteous, even though they love that wealth.
That's a pivotal verse for defining comprehensive virtue. It says the truly righteous person gives wealth despite loving it to, first, relatives, then orphans, the poor, travelers in need, those who ask for help, and those trapped in slavery or imprisonment.
That's a broad list. It covers basic survival, hardship, even freedom.
It's incredibly comprehensive. It's not just about feeding the hungry. It addresses systemic issues like social vulnerability and lack of freedom.
And then Surah An-Nisa 4.36 broadens the circle of kindness even more. Parents, relatives, orphans, the needy. And then neighbors, close ones, distant ones, companions like coworkers or classmates, travelers, even employees or those under your care. It feels like it covers almost everyone you might interact with.
It really does. It shows just how inclusive Islamic charity is meant to be. It fosters this deep sense of responsibility and care towards pretty much everyone in your sphere, building a truly interconnected community.
And that example of selfless giving in Surah Al-Insan 76.810. Giving food to the needy, orphan, captive, purely for Allah, expecting nothing back, not even thanks. That feels like the absolute peak of pure intention.
It truly is the pinnacle of altruism described there. They say basically, we feed you only for Allah's sake. We don't want reward or thanks from you. We fear a terrible day from our Lord. It highlights complete selflessness, driven by awe of God and hope for his acceptance, not human praise. Giving becomes a deeply spiritual transaction.
A powerful image. Now, what about that fundamental idea you mentioned? Your wealth contains the right of others. Where does that come from? It's quite a radical idea compared to just pure private ownership.
It's foundational from Surah Ad-Dhariyat 51.1. And in their wealth, there is a rightful share for those who ask and for those who are deprived. This verse fundamentally challenges absolute ownership. It establishes a moral, spiritual obligation. A portion of your wealth inherently belongs to others.
Specifically those who ask and those deprived. Who are they?
The deprived are often understood as those who are needy but are too shy, too proud, or simply unable to ask for help. So it's not just about responding to requests, but proactively seeking out hidden need. It reframes wealth as a trust from Allah, with built-in rights for the community.
That's a huge shift. Charity isn't just optional, it's fulfilling someone else's rightful share. And then there's that specific category of the hidden needy mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah 2.273.
Yes. This verse points to those who are completely dedicated to Allah's cause. Maybe scholars, students of knowledge, volunteers who can't easily earn a living because of their commitment.
And they might not look needy.
Exactly. The verse says, "The ignorant think they are self-sufficient because they don't beg persistently. You will recognize them by their signs." They carry themselves with dignity, struggle quietly. It highlights the importance of being discerning, looking beyond appearances, and supporting those dedicated to spiritual or community service, even if they don't ask.
So being perceptive about need. This whole section really broadens the scope of who deserves care.
It certainly does, and with that understanding of general spending, Infaq, which is broad, often voluntary. Let's now transition to the specific mandatory duty of Zakat. This is where the general principle gets structure, detail, obligation.
Okay, shifting from the general encouragement to the specific command. The source highlights three main injunctions about Zakat in the Quran. What's the first one?
First is in Surah Al-Baqarah 2.267. Spend from the good things you have earned and from what we have brought forth for you from the earth. This clearly links Zakat to both your earnings, your income, and agricultural produce. It connects economic activity directly to this charitable duty.
And the second one focuses specifically on crops. Surah Al-An'am 6.141. Eat of its fruit when it bears fruit and give its due on the day of harvest.
That's right. Enjoy the harvest, but don't forget Allah's share on harvest day. According to some major scholars like the Hanafis, this applies to all cultivated produce grains, veggies, fruits, but not wild stuff like grass or wood.
Okay. And are there specific rates?
Yes. The Prophet, peace be upon him, specified them. Generally, it's 110th or 10% for crops watered naturally by rain, less effort involved, and 120th or 5% for crops that need irrigation, like from wells or canals, because more effort and cost went in. And crucially, Zakat on crops is due right at harvest time, an immediate responsibility.
So no delaying once the harvest is in. Got it. And then there's that very stern warning about hoarding wealth without paying Zakat. Surah At-Tawbah 9.3435. It sounds pretty intense.
It's incredibly intense, a powerful deterrent. It says, "Those who hoard gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah, give them the glad tidings of a painful punishment."
Glad tidings of pain. That's striking.
It is, it continues. "On the day when it is heated in the fire of hell and their foreheads, sides, and backs are branded with it, it will be said, 'This is what you hoarded for yourselves, so taste what you used to hoard.'"
Wow. The very gold and silver they hoarded becomes the instrument of punishment.
Exactly. The thing they loved and withheld is transformed into torment. It links the neglect of Zakat directly to a profound, painful consequence, underscores its seriousness.
Incredibly impactful warning. So beyond avoiding punishment, what's the ultimate purpose of Zakat? Why is it so central?
The purpose and wisdom are beautifully captured in Surah At-Tawbah 9.103. "Take from their wealth a charity by which you purify them and increase them in goodness."
Purify and increase. How does that work?
It shows Zakat isn't just a tax. It's a divine way to purify wealth, cleanse it from any shady dealings maybe, or spiritual impurities from attachment. And it increases goodness. It brings blessing, growth, both materially and spiritually for the giver. It fosters individual purification and societal well-being, growth for the giver, the recipient, the whole community.
That's a beautiful perspective. Purification and growth, wealth made pure through giving. Now, the source mentions the Quran details Zakat on crops, gold, silver, but the Hadith, the Prophet's traditions add more.
Yes, the Hadith clarifies Zakat also applies to things like business goods held for trade and livestock, camels, cows, goats, sheep. It shows zakat is comprehensive, covering various forms of economic activity and stored wealth, not just cash or crops.
So how do you know when zakat is due on these things? Is there a minimum amount, like a threshold?
Absolutely. That threshold is called Nisab. Zakat only becomes obligatory if your wealth reaches or goes above the Nisab, and this is key. A full lunar year has passed while your wealth stayed at or above that level.
Okay, so you need to have that amount for a whole year. What are the thresholds, roughly?
They're quite specific. For silver, it's about 200 dirhams, which is roughly 52.5 tarazas, or maybe 612 grams. For gold, it's 7.5 taraz, around 87.5 grams. Livestock has specific numbers too, like 5 camels, 40 goats, 30 cows. For business goods, their total value needs to equal the nisab of silver.
And if you meet that threshold for a year,
then you give 140th, which is 2.5%, a relatively small percentage.
Okay, 2.5% after a year above the Nisab. What if someone has both gold and silver, but neither one alone reaches the Nisab? Are they exempt?
Good question. No, normally not. If neither reaches its individual Nisab, but their combined value meets the Nisab of either gold or silver, usually calculated against the silver Nisab as it's lower and benefits the poor more, then zakat is still due on the combined total.
Oh, interesting. So you can't just split your assets to avoid it.
Pretty much. It looks at the overall liquid wealth picture.
Okay, now for something that the source says often surprises people, even those familiar with zakat, it's not just on money or business assets. It's also due on gold and silver jewelry, even personal jewelry you wear.
Yes, this is a major point of clarification and often a surprise. According to key early figures like Caliph Umar, Ibn Masud, and major jurists like Imam Abu Hanifa, zakat is obligatory on gold and silver jewelry, even if it's for personal use.
Wow. Why? What does that tell us about how personal wealth is viewed?
It suggests that even personal adornment, if it reaches a certain threshold of stored value in gold or silver, still has a potential right for the community embedded within it. It's not just about productive wealth, but also stored wealth. The Hadith evidence is quite compelling here.
Okay, let's hear that evidence. That makes it concrete.
2 key incidents. First, the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw 2 women wearing gold bangles. He asked them straight up, "Do you give zakat on this?" They said no. His response was incredibly stark. "Would you like to wear bracelets of fire on the day of judgment?"
Bracelets of fire? That's direct.
Very direct. Second, Salama, one of his wives, asked if her gold anklets counted as hoarded wealth. He replied, essentially, if they reach the nisab and zakat has been paid, then no, they're not hoarded wealth.
The clear implication being?
The clear implication is that if zakat isn't paid when it's due on such jewelry, assuming it meets the nisab, then it is considered hoarded wealth, subject to that severe warning.
Okay, so zakat is due on personal gold and silver jewelry if it meets the nisab and a year passes. What about other gems, diamonds, rubies, etc.?
Good clarification. No, the sources are clear. Precious stones like diamonds, rubies, emeralds are not subject to zakat. The obligation is specifically on gold and silver, likely due to their historical function as currency and primary stores of value.
That clears up a lot. Okay, so we know what zakat is due on. Now, who gets it? The Quran is very specific, right? That verse, Surah At-Tawbah 9.60, lays out exactly 8 categories of recipients.
Yes, it's the blueprint for distribution. The first 2 are often paired. The poor, fuqara, and the needy, masakin.
What's the difference?
It's subtle. The fuqara might have some income or assets, but not quite enough for their basic needs. They usually don't beg, maintain their dignity. The masakin are generally understood to be more destitute, maybe lacking even food, and can include those willing but unable to find work. It ensures the most vulnerable are covered.
Okay. Then category 3, zakat administrators. Who are they?
These are the people officially appointed maybe by an Islamic state or a recognized charity to actually handle this zakat. Collecting it, managing it fairly, distributing it effectively. They get paid from the zakat funds for their work, which highlights the need for an organized system.
Makes sense. Category 4 is fascinating. Hearts to be reconciled. Mu'alafatul qulub. That sounds strategic.
It is, and it shows the social wisdom involved. This category is for people, maybe non-Muslims interested in Islam, or new converts who are given zakat to draw their hearts closer or strengthen their commitment, especially if converting left them poor or isolated.
Like winning hearts and minds.
In a way, yes. Like the Prophet giving gifts to newly converted tribal leaders after a battle. It solidified their loyalty, built bridges, strengthened the community through support and compassion.
Interesting. Number 5, for freeing captives. Rikab. How does that work today without widespread slavery?
Originally, yes, it was for buying slaves' freedom. Today, scholars often apply it more broadly, perhaps, to help release those unjustly imprisoned or jailed simply because they couldn't pay legitimate fines or debts. It's about alleviating oppression, restoring freedom.
Okay, sixth category, debtors. Garimin,
Yeah.
people crushed by debt, falling below the Nisab. But there are conditions, right?
Yes, crucial ones. It's for legitimate debts that overwhelm someone. It's generally not meant for debts incurred through, say, gambling, excessive luxury, or just reckless spending. The idea is to help those in genuine hardship not bail out irresponsible behavior. They should show reform first.
Right, a safety net, not enabling bad habits. Seventh, in the path of Allah, fi Sabeelillah. This is broader than just fighting, isn't it?
Much broader. Yes, historically it included military defense, but it commonly refers to supporting anything that advances Islam and benefits the community. Think Islamic education, dawah, inviting people to Islam, explaining it, building mosques, community projects.
So supporting the infrastructure of the faith.
Exactly. And interestingly, even someone who is personally wealthy might receive zakat under this category if they're funding or undertaking a very costly but necessary project for the cause of Islam, like a major outreach effort. It's about supporting the mission.
That's a key distinction, supporting the mission itself. And the last one, number 8, stranded travelers, Ibn al-Sabil.
This covers travelers who get stuck, run out of resources while away from home, even if they're rich back where they live. If they're genuinely stranded and need help to get home or continue their necessary journey, they can receive zakat. It's a comprehensive safety net, recognizing temporary vulnerability.
That's an incredibly detailed list. It ensures zakat targets a huge range of real needs. But just as important is knowing who can't receive zakat. What are those boundaries?
Right. The boundaries are important to ensure zakat serves its purpose. Firstly, you can't give zakat to your close relatives whom you're already obligated to support, parents, kids, spouse,
Why not?
because supporting them is already your mandatory duty. Zakat is for those outside that immediate circle of financial dependency. Giving zakat would just be shuffling money you already owe them.
Makes sense. What about non-Muslims? Can they receive zakat?
Generally, no. Zakat is understood as being for the Muslim community based on the Prophet's statement, taken from your rich and distributed among your poor.
Okay.
However, and this is crucial, general charity sadaqah, the infaq we talked about earlier, can and should be given to non-Muslims, especially if they're in need. Compassion extends universally, even if the specific zakat obligation is internal to the community.
Got it. Zakat for the community's poor, general charity for everyone. What about geography? Should zakat stay local?
Many classical scholars, like Imam Abu Hanifa and Malik, preferred that zakat be spent in the same town or area where it was collected. The idea is to strengthen the local community first, address needs right there.
Build local self-sufficiency.
Exactly. But there's an exception. If there's a major disaster, floods, famine, war elsewhere, then sending zakat there is permissible, even encouraged. Dire need overrides the local preference.
Okay. And are there people who maybe seem okay, have basic stuff, who shouldn't take zakat?
Yes, there's a view among some scholars that if someone has more than, say, basic sustenance for a day or owns assets beyond their absolute necessities, they should try not to take zakat, especially if they can work. Legally, the line is often drawn at owning less than the Nisab amount, excluding essentials like your house, basic clothes, tools of your trade. The spirit is definitely to encourage work and self-reliance.
Which leads perfectly into the virtues of avoiding unnecessary begging. The Prophet really emphasized dignity through work, didn't he?
Massively. He strongly encouraged earning your own living. Said things like, don't beg if you have food for the day. Famously said it's better to go cut firewood and sell it than to beg. The message is clear. If you can work, you should work. Don't rely on zakat if you have the means to earn. It fosters a work ethic, community pride.
But wasn't there also a statement showing compassion, even if someone looks okay?
Yeah.
Recognizing hidden need.
Yes, absolutely. There's that beautiful balance. He also said something like, even if a beggar comes riding a horse, he has a right if he's in need. This acknowledges that appearances can be deceiving. Someone might look well off, but be facing hidden, crushing hardship. It teaches us not to judge superficially and to maintain compassion.
That's a wonderful balance. Encourage work, maintain dignity, but never lose compassion for genuine, sometimes hidden need.
Okay, we've talked a lot about individual giving, but the source really stresses a bigger vision for zakat, not just individual acts, but a community system. What's that about? This is so crucial for understanding zakat's full potential. While giving individually is fine, Islam strongly emphasizes a collective, organized system for collecting and distributing zakat.
Why collective? What's the benefit?
Think about it. A centralized system means much better reach, greater efficiency, and the ability to tackle bigger systemic problems like poverty in a coordinated way, rather than just scattered individual efforts. It becomes a powerful tool for social welfare.
So it scales up the impact dramatically. Is there a specific command for this collective approach in the Quran or from the Prophet?
Yes, it's not just a good idea, it's indicated in the sources. Remember Surah At-Tawbah 9.103. Take charity from their wealth, O Prophet. The command take implies an act of authority collecting it, not just individuals passively giving.
The authorities commanded to take it.
Right, and the Prophet himself acted as that authority. He said, I have been commanded to take charity from your rich and give it to your poor. That's a command to him as the community leader, recorded in Bukhari and Muslim. It wasn't just a suggestion to people.
So it was a core function of the early Islamic state's governance.
Absolutely. During his time and the time of the caliphs after him, zakat was systematically collected by appointed agents and distributed by the central authority. It was institutionalized, a pillar of the state's responsibility to its people.
Which makes the modern implications pretty clear, even if individuals give zakat on their own now, because there isn't always that central system.
The larger goal encouraged within the tradition is for Muslims to work towards building those effective centralized zakat systems again.
Why? What's the ultimate payoff?
Because only then can zakat fully realize its transformative power. It goes beyond individual purification, which is still vital to become this engine for systemic poverty reduction, community building, fostering this deep sense of shared responsibility and flourishing. It's an economic and social pillar, not just charity.
This has been incredibly illuminating. We've gone from the broad idea of generosity, infaq, to the detailed, structured obligation of zakat. We've looked at the wisdom, the how-to, the who gets it, the who doesn't, and this powerful vision of a collective system designed not just to help individuals, but to uplift an entire society.
It really shows how giving in Islam isn't just some optional extra. It's woven right into the core of belief, practice, and building a just and compassionate community. It tackles human need and spiritual growth together.
So the so what for you listening is perhaps to think about how this understanding informs your own approach to wealth, generosity, community responsibility, wherever you're coming from. And here's a final thought to take away.
Yep.
Beyond just ticking a box of obligation, really consider this. How could embracing the full spirit of giving both the general generosity and the specific, ideally organized zakat transform things? Not just individual lives, but the fabric of whole communities. Imagine fostering that sense of shared responsibility, that collective flourishing, so deeply that it goes beyond what we normally call charity and actually redefines what wealth is and what it's for. What might that look like in our world today?
That's a profound question to end on. Really makes you think.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We hope this has been a valuable shortcut to understanding the wisdom of giving in this tradition. We'll see you next time.